Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. In case you haven't realized, I've been wearing the same shirt for like the last few videos. I figured, you know what? I don't feel like running over to my closet to go and just change my shirt just to sit here for a few minutes and just sit here and bask. This shirt is like my favorite shirt of all time. We're in that season now where it's end of October, it's kind of getting cold. We're back to the season where we can wear turtlenecks. Fun fact about me, I love turtlenecks. I love them. Turtlenecks are my happy place. I love turtlenecks. And this one has like puff sleeves and just love puff sleeves. Have any of you read Anne of Green Gables where like Anne is there complaining about, oh, I want puff sleeves, and then she keeps begging Marilla to get her puff sleeves for her school dance, and Marilla's like, no, puff sleeves are so frivolous. And then Matthew goes and gets her the puff sleeves. Anne of Green Gables is probably one of my favorite books of all time. If you've not read it, please go read it. Get your life, please. It is amazing. Okay. Yeah. So every time I wear this sweater, I think of Anne of Green Gables because Anne had puff sleeves and Anne had puff sleeves, and this is so ridiculous. This has nothing to do with the video, by the way. This video is not about puff sleeves. This is just me chit-chatting with you. But yeah, we're in that season now where it's getting cool, so I can wear my puff sleeve turtleneck again. So enjoy my favorite sweater here. Yeah, I used to actually wear sweaters, turtlenecks all year round, and then I realized I actually have really low iron. That's why I was always so cold. I was not trying to be cool or emo, although I do enjoy their fashions. They look pretty cool. Okay, enough with the chit chat, enough with the random bibble babble. What this video is about? I want to be bilingual. And not only do I want to be bilingual, I want to up the ante a little bit more. I want to be trilingual. Okay. You've probably seen on my channel that I've been writing and creating posts about being bilingual and my French language journey, but I am about to embark on a different kind of journey. Like, I'm going to be starting from scratch probably for another language. I've kind of talked about this in other videos, but let's dig a little deeper here. Why don't we? So what languages have I been exposed to? English is my language of birth. It's my native language. I was born and raised in an English-speaking environment. My parents speak the dialect of Patois. They are Jamaican. I never learned it. My parents were really concerned with us learning English and being able to communicate properly in English at school. And they always kind of really ingrained in me that I'm not Jamaican, I'm Canadian, so they kind of just stuck with the English for me. It's weird now when I'm older that they talk to me sometimes in Patois, because it's like, I don't really know what you're saying to me. Sorry, I don't really identify with that, and I don't really get it. Like, even people on the road sometimes will talk to me in Patois, and I'm like, I remember, literally, it was like just before the pandemic. I was it was June. No, June we were in the pandemic. Was it? It must have been last year. But it was definitely June, and I was dressed in like a sweater jacket, and this guy was looking at me, he was like, "You're not Syriana, June." And I was like, huh? What are you saying to me? What's going on? And it wasn't until I went home that it clicked in my head. He was saying, "Don't you know we're in June? Like, basically, why are you wearing this sweater?" And it just never clicked. I wasn't really wearing much under it, so the sweater worked for me, but that's why. But yeah, but like, that's an example of like, and like the other, sorry, I'm trying to think back. Was it 2 years ago or 1 year ago or something? Like, my mom's cousin had a wedding. Or no, it wasn't a wedding. It was a celebration of her. I think it was her birthday party. Yes, it was her birthday party. I went to her birthday party. They had a comedian And the comedian was going on riffing and having his own little jokes, and everybody in the audience was cracking up, and me and my brother were sitting there like, what's going on? I felt really bad because like the comedian, he seemed like he was really funny, but he was a Jamaican. He's in the audience with all Jamaicans. Of course, he's speaking patois, and by the time he was on to like the fourth joke, the first joke was just translating in my head, and it was a mess. So, you know, it is what it is, right? But I think to myself all the time, like, what languages can I learn? What can I dig into? What can I really get into? When I was younger, I legitimately had the goal when I was a kid to learn every single language living and dead. And then I got a little older and I realized that that was not really feasible. There's a lot of languages, a lot of language families and trees, and I was not going to be able to accomplish that goal probably before I died. So I figured, you know what, let's reduce that a little bit. And I figured, okay, well, let me try every living language. And I realized still too much out there. And I said, okay, what about 5? And my ideal 5 were English, French, Spanish, Korean, Japanese. Those are my 5. And the more I've gone through life, the more I've been continuing with things, I've been thinking to myself, you need to narrow that down a little bit more. So now we kind of wound things down to maybe 4 languages. And I'm thinking, still a lot. A lot of people can do it. Like, I can tell, like, there's YouTube channels I love to watch that are about people who are multilingual, people who are polyglots, and they can spout off and talk in different paragraphs and go on and on and on about their abilities in said language. But for me, can't do it. It's okay, let me put it this way. I could do it. I am not inclined to do it. You know, I'm at that point in my life where I'm like, why? Why should I just learn languages for the sake of just learning a bunch of languages? Like, for me, if I'm going to learn languages, I want to be learning languages where it's like, okay, I'm constantly getting the chance to use them. I enjoy the language. I enjoy the culture. Ideally, I'd enjoy the food too. I'm traveling maybe to those places, maybe even marry into the culture, or have really good friends in those communities. Like, I really want to immerse myself in the experience, and so I want it to be really, really useful. So right now, the language I have is French. I have English and French. Those 2 I've been sticking with my whole life. If I wasn't an English speaker, I would obviously have to learn English. It's the world language right now. It's the dominant language, and to be honest, there's so many fun things happening in the English speaking world. Like, it's so lit being an English speaker. I love it. I'm sorry. I know that colonialism and really bad things in history happened to bring about the dominance of certain languages like English, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. Yeah, you know, I do know that bad things in the past happened to make that a thing, and I am sorry for, you know, that part of English's history. But as a whole, I'm really grateful to be a native speaker of one of the coolest languages in the whole world. Really, it's awesome. I love being an English speaker. I love how dynamic the language is. I love the freedom to express myself. I love that I can take this language pretty much anywhere in the world, and it's valuable. Yeah, I can't say that I would change anything about the language of my birth. I love it, and I would pick it again. Oops, I would pick it again. French. So, as I mentioned in previous videos, I've been studying French since the 2nd grade. It's mandatory in Canada, but because I was in private school, I started in grade 2. Normally, you start in grade 4 unless you're like in an immersion program. I was at a private school, which is why I started early. But yeah, even with French, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, I like to think of English as the language of my mind, and then French is the language of my heart. You know, Um, I feel like I'm in love with the language, and I feel like I really enjoy it, and I can always, I feel like it sounds so romantic. I love, like, I could listen to French all day long. I really could. If there wasn't such fun content in English, I'd listen to French all day long, I promise. I promise. You know, and I really like that slowly but surely I'm starting to meet really cool people in the French speaking world online through Twitter, and I'm actually in some chat rooms where I can like talk to people in French and communicate with them and really get to practice my French and also talk to people who are like-minded, which is awesome. I wouldn't give up French for the world. If you asked me now to give up French or English, I wouldn't want to. Like, those are two languages I feel like we're riding to the end of my life. We're not letting either of those go. We've come too far, and I love them too much to let them go. I wish I felt that way still about Spanish. I loved Spanish when I was a kid. I thought it was one of the sexiest, most amazing languages in the whole world, and I quite enjoyed it. And I kept pushing to try and learn the language. My family was really resistant. They kept pushing me to learn French and become bilingual in English and French, and I was like, I'm gonna become bilingual in English and French. Can I just have another language on the side? And they were like, no. And you know, after a while, I think that constantly getting the pushback with learning Spanish, I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? What's the point? Let's just move on, you know. And you know, there was a time actually for the last like year or so where like I just felt repulsed by Spanish. Like, I didn't want to hear it, I didn't want to study it, I didn't want to speak it. Like, I just wanted it away from me, you know. And it wasn't until like about 2 weeks ago where I tried listening to a Spanish podcast, and I actually was able to sit through it. But I realized like I can only really take it nowadays, even in small doses. It's not something I'm planning to continue with, which makes me sad because with English and French under my belt, Spanish is like a natural progression language, and the vocabulary from both of those feeds quite nicely into that one, and it works quite well. Tested out Portuguese for a little bit, realized I didn't like the sound of the language, so that one died really quickly. Same with Italian, I'm sorry. They were easy, I guess, but I just didn't love them. German, ugh. Whew. Me and the sound of that language, I was like, nope, not at all. And I heard it was really hard too, so I just really wasn't up for trying it. What else? I dabbled a little bit in Eastern languages after that. I never had an interest in going to Africa and learning African languages. Wasn't really on my radar. Thought about Scandinavia, and I realized I'm like, doesn't call me, doesn't speak to me. I tried for Western Europe. I did. I tried a bunch of languages from Western Europe, but I wasn't drawn there. Same with Eastern Europe. Wasn't drawn there. I don't know. Because sometimes I think to myself, and I'm like, especially not the Arab world, oh no, wasn't interested in any of those languages at all. The culture was not a good fit, to say the least, right? You know, I've always thought about that. It's like, it's nice to have a language that sounds nice to you, that you can learn easily based off of your home language, and maybe the culture is good and all that, but then what if a language you were trying to learn was like a world power language? Like, before I narrowed myself down to 5 and then 4 languages, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool to try and learn every language of the UN? That would have been kind of cool, right? I think back when I was a kid, it was English, French, Spanish, Arabic. Arabic was a new addition, though. Arabic's new. Chinese, I think Russian. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Those are the 6 I can think of, but I believe there's a 7th. If you know the 7th one, drop it below. And if I rewatch the video and I realize which one I missed, I'll throw it in there as well. But yeah, I thought, oh, I could learn all the languages of the UN maybe, and I thought, oh, I don't know. I did, but none of them really drew me in. Chinese wasn't bad, but to me, I was thinking the culture and not a thing. Learning all of those characters, not a thing, and I wasn't really feeling it. Arabic, absolutely not. Wasn't gonna learn anything from that part of the world. I'm sorry. I know they beautiful outfits, lovely landscape. Seems like a very rich place to be, but I said, you know what? Certain things, culturally speaking, just not a good fit, and I think that's okay to say. Spanish, we talked about that. French and English, we talked about that. We're fine with those two. Russian, I tried Russian for a tiny bit. I love the Cyrillic alphabet. That's one thing I gotta say about Russian, and I know other languages have that Cyrillic alphabet too, like Serbian and Bosnian, and I know there's other languages over there. I'm sorry, I'm not that versed in my Slavic languages. I'm tempted to say Moldovan, but probably not. Let me quibble on my head. But I loved the Cyrillic alphabet. It's so beautiful looking, so pretty. I'm always tempted with Russian, but then I found out like they seem to have a tense and a case for like every single part of speech, and I was like, that sounds really hard. And then on top of that, I was like, technically Russia's like the enemy of the world. Like, I don't know if I want to go there. I don't know. I don't know. And then I was thinking like, back then I was thinking, well, the only place I would be able to go is Russia to speak Russian, and maybe Eastern Europe. Would I want to travel there all the time? Would I have the time for that? I don't know. And that's another thing I think about. Like, would I want to necessarily learn a language that I wouldn't be able to immerse myself in regularly? Like, I would only be able to go and travel there every so often. Which is funny that I use that reasoning for Russian, because with Korean and with Japanese, I have no problem learning those two. Even though I'm probably never going to visit those two countries. Let's keep it real. I don't know. I need your help, guys. If you made it this far in the video, drop a note. What language do you think I should learn? Right now, I'm dabbling in Korean, and I'm also dabbling in Japanese. I can introduce myself in those languages. Konnichiwa, Tamara desu. Or 안녕하세요, Tamara입니다. I can say more in Korean because I've been practicing a little bit of my Korean. 저는 캐나다 사람입니다. 쇼핑 가고 싶어요. 두 책을 있어요. 사과를 먹었어요. 보라색 좋아요. Is it 보라색은 좋아요? So it's little things I can say. Japanese, I'm nervous. I keep having this conversation with myself. Sometimes I feel like a bit of a failure. I know it's weird to say with a smile on my face. I feel like a bit of a failure though, because I'm like, when I was 13, I'm 28 now, so it's 15 years ago. Back when I was 13 years old, I was obsessed with Japan and Japanese culture. And for any 90s kid, I'm sure you felt the same way. Like, we had the Japan wave that happened in the 90s, and then the Hallyu wave that happened in the early 2000s. Maybe not early 2000s, more like 2010s, the Hallyu wave happened. So we had a Japan wave where everything was Japanese. We had anime shows, we had manga, We had Japanese food everywhere. We had so much Japanese content surrounding our childhood, Tamagotchis and all this stuff. And then by like high school, everybody was talking about K-dramas and Korean K-pop and Korean shows, and things just switched on a dime. It's like we were talking so much about Japan, and then we went straight to Korea, and it's been fun. It's been interesting. I've been enjoying the journey with the two of them, but I feel like they're always fighting with me on the inside, because I start to get to make progress with Korean, and to be honest, it's mainly because of the written system. Let's keep that real. If Japan didn't have 3 writing systems, and my brother didn't tell me back in the day that Japan had 3 writing systems, your girl will be further ahead with Japanese. Because Korean, let's be honest, Hangul you can learn it in a day. If you can't learn Hangul in a day, you need help. You know, and I'm not saying necessarily memorizing all of the characters for the alphabet, like the names of the characters, but just memorizing the actual look of the characters and the sound of the characters. You should be able to do that within 24 hours. Like, really. I'm getting a message on my iPad, and I'm recording. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly try and wrap this up. Yeah, it's been a journey. It's like I went to university, and I said to myself, I'm going to study Japanese at university. Never got around to it because, you know, another message was trying to get my credits together, and yeah, I'm trying to get my credits together, and trying to work with all that. It just never worked out. You know, oddly enough, I found a Korean course that worked quite nicely with my credits. So, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying my childhood. I'm betraying my childhood dreams because I never learned Japanese. But then on the other hand, it's like, I don't know, there's pros and cons to both. On the one hand, I love the sound of Japanese. I kind of enjoy Japanese food, even though I haven't eaten that much of it. I was obsessed with it as a child. And there's still that fascination, there's still that draw, that pull of it, you know? On the other hand, we have Korean. Korean has the ease. It has, and it's still an interesting enough language. I don't love the sound of it as much as I love Japanese, but I still like it. There's a lot of Koreans in my area. Like, oh my gosh. I live like probably a stone's throw away from a Koreatown. And like, whereas it's hard to find Japanese people around me. Yeah. The one big thing that I've been thinking to myself is that if I could find a Korean language church to follow on podcast, I'd be golden. The odd thing is I found a Japanese church to follow that I really liked and that really jived with me. But they were on Apple Podcasts, and now I've switched to Spotify, and they're not on Spotify anymore. And I kind of want to go on their YouTube channel and say, hey, can you switch your podcast to Spotify, or at least show it on Spotify too? If they do that, I might be sold to learning Japanese and just continue on with it. But if I could find a church, like a legit church that has a good podcast on Spotify that I could listen to, like, I would totally go for it. I don't know. That's the weird thing. That's like my one condition that I really, really need. I also probably need a new language partner because the current one I have seems to be busy. But language partners, I can always find one pretty quickly. It's a little slow sometimes with the Asian languages, but it can be done. But yeah, you know, it's just slowly but surely we're getting into it and we're doing things. So I think about it, you know? I don't know. Right now I'm trying to go for languages that I'm really interested in and I'm really passionate about. And right now, Korean and Japanese have my eye. Of course, French. French will always have my heart, but I want a third one to balance things out. So I don't know. Help me, guys. Help me decide. I keep coming back to this question. Should I do Japanese or should I do Korean? I'm actually on Duolingo right now. I have 16 courses left to finish on Duolingo for Korean. I keep getting to level 6 of Japanese, and I quit it and I delete the whole thing, and then I have to start all over again. So now I'm at the point where I have to start all over again. And I'm like, should I even bother? Because like, I keep on trying, and then I just fall flat on my face, and it just sucks. I don't know. I have to think about it. But yeah, you know, it's something worth thinking about. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on where I should go language-wise. I'm obviously sticking with French. Obviously going to continue with it. Now that the pandemic, people are getting used to the pandemic life, I'm still looking on the lookout for a language tutor for French, somebody who can help me to prepare for the actual exam. I had a tutor last time for the exam to prep, but I ended up with only 50%, and I'm thinking, I can get 50% by myself. I don't really need a tutor to help me get 50%, right? So I kind of want a tutor to help me do better on the C2 exam for Almost Princess. Yeah, so if I can find that, then I'm good. But I also want to have a solid third language to move forward with. For Korean, my main thing would be finding a church podcast I can listen to, maybe finding some other interesting podcasts that I can listen to as well. I have a few, but I'd really like to find some really good and engaging ones. I had this one that I really liked. It was called, it was a really long name, but I remember the last part of it was Dushimanse, and it was by NBC, and it was so silly and weird and entertaining, and it was only on Apple Podcasts, and it's not on Spotify, and sometimes I'm thinking, why am I on Spotify and everything is not on Spotify yet? But I like that Spotify, I can listen to it on any platform, so I'm going to stick with it. But I'm getting annoyed. I'm like, all the podcasts that I loved back in the day, like I have to go back now, find the people who made those podcasts and say, hey, can you come on Spotify so I can still listen to you? Some of them are listening, which is great. Thank you so much. But I need some of those Korean and Japanese ones to come over here so I can listen to you. So if anybody knows any good like Korean and Japanese podcasts, like, let me know in the comments below. I did not plan on this video being so long. I'm gonna go. I still have to answer those messages and go on with life. So thank you so much for listening to my little rambles. I think that's how I'm gonna do these podcasts. Speaking of podcasts, I'm going to do a podcast, not now, but eventually. That was a Freudian slip there. I'm gonna continue with these YouTube videos. Just off the cuff. I have so much in my life right now that I feel like needs like to plan everything and execute everything in a very decisive and specific fashion. I just need a place where I can just relax and just chat and just talk. So that's gonna be my YouTube channel. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And I hope we can continue this little tete-a-tete chit-chat moving forward. Let me know in the comments, seriously, if you made it this far, like, share, and subscribe, by the way. I need to remember to keep saying that. Please engage with this channel. It would be great. It would really help me to help you. You help me with the engagements, I can help you with more content. And let me know, what should I do with my third language? I'm really into Japanese and Korean, but maybe there's another language I haven't considered. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Okay? We're good? Alright, have a good night. It's nighttime where I am. I should really be in bed. So I'll see you later.